The court sentenced Alexander Derkunsky, a businessman from Rostov-on-Don, and Yevgeny Tarutin, a former employee of the Kursk Research Institute, to 9 and 8 years in prison in a case of treason. The hearings were held behind closed doors. According to investigators, the scientist handed over the results of research work to the businessman, and on their basis he organized mass production abroad, a fundamentally new technology. It was originally allegedly developed for the needs of the Ministry of Defense. According to the investigation, it was about a software and hardware complex for data recovery.
In their last speech, the defendants asked the court for leniency, arguing that by their actions they did not intend to damage the defense of the state, but were guided only by personal commercial interests. From the publication in Kommersant.
After the start of a full-scale military aggression against Ukraine, more and more criminal cases of treason appear in Russia. Often the reason is correspondence with supposedly representatives of foreign states, most often from Ukraine.
Cases of treason are first of all politics. If earlier the first thing the authorities did was to issue a warning from the Prosecutor General's office, do not send money to Ukraine, otherwise we will involve you, then they went all over the country with operational search measures. This is when, without initiating a criminal case, they seize equipment and conduct de facto searches. Apparently this did not help, and a decision was made to start scaring people with real criminal cases. There are 3 known cases of initiating a criminal case for donations of the armed forces of Ukraine or simply to Ukraine. Yevgeny Smirnov, advocate, in an interview with Deutsche Welle.
For the 5th time in a row, the security forces detained Moscow resident Alexander Kraichik. He has been persecuted since April 2023 for transferring 50 euros to a Ukrainian charitable foundation.
There is clearly no criminal legal interest in him. I am not aware of this, and those administrative cases, those administrative detentions that he is serving, they look completely far-fetched and unfounded.
Olga Nazarenko, a lecturer at the Medical Academy, was finally charged under articles of discrediting the Russian army and repeatedly violating the so-called protest legislation. The reason for the start of case was anti-war leaflets that a woman posted on the streets of Ivanova in August and September 2022, as well as several single pickets against the war in Ukraine and in support of political prisoners. She faces up to 5 years in prison. Olga has already been suspended from work at the Ivanova State Medical Academy, where she has worked for over 20 years.
Russia is my country, not just those in power and their supporters. I will not let anyone kick me out of my country. I'm ready for a possible prison sentence. If this happens, I will serve time, and then I will be released and continue my pickets. I'm not too afraid of prison. Somehow people live there. You can't send to jail everyone, and you can't close everyone's mouth. Olga Nazarenko in an interview with Radio Liberty.
The Golovinsky District Court of Moscow refused to suspend consideration of the criminal case of Oleg Orlov, so chairman of the Memorial Human Rights Center. He is being persecuted under the article on repeated discrediting of the army.
The accusation against me is not specific at all, absolutely blurry, does not comply with the norms of the Code of Criminal Procedure. To defend myself against such an accusation in which there is nothing intelligible except for one thing, Orlov write an article. For this he must be punished. Well, how can you protect yourself from this?
9 years in a strict regime colony. Such a verdict was passed by the Southern District Military Court to the Crimean contract soldier Denis Norolsky, who refused to fight in Ukraine. And in the Sverdlovsk region, the art teacher Daria Sergeyeva was searched in the case of discrediting the army. After interrogation, she was released on bail. The main goal of mass arrests and initiation of criminal cases for discrediting the army, spreading fakes, and even the absence of a foreign agent label in publications is to instill fear in people of the Kremlin regime, lawyers say. But despite this, people continue to express their position. Reported by Serhiy Kulas, Natalia Husak, UATV News.